with the exception of South Africa and Cape Verde. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender rights in Africa are limited in comparison to Western Europe and much of the Americas and Oceania. Out of the 54 states recognized by the United Nations or African Union or both, the International Gay and Lesbian Association stated in 2015 that homosexuality is outlawed in 34 African countries. Human Rights Watch notes that another 2 countries, Benin and the Central African Republic, do not outlaw homosexuality, but have certain laws which apply differently to heterosexual and homosexual individuals. Homosexuality has never been criminalized in Benin, Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Djibouti, Equatorial Guinea, Madagascar, Mali, Niger, and Rwanda. It has been decriminalized in Angola, Botswana, Cape Verde, Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Lesotho, Mozambique, São Tomé and Príncipe, the Seychelles and South Africa. South Africa was the 5th country in the world to legalize same-sex marriage in November of 2006. Since 2011, some developed countries have been considering or implementing laws that limit or prohibit general budget support to countries that restrict the rights of LGBT people. In spite of this, many African countries have refused to consider increasing LGBT rights, and in some cases have drafted laws to increase sanctions against LGBT people. Some African leaders claim that it was brought into the continent from other parts of the world. Nevertheless, most scholarship and research demonstrates that homosexuality has long been a part of various African cultures. In Somalia, Somaliland, Mauritania and northern Nigeria, homosexuality is punishable by death. In Uganda, Tanzania, and Sierra Leone, offenders can receive life imprisonment for homosexual acts, although the law is not enforced in Sierra Leone. In addition to criminalizing homosexuality, Nigeria has enacted legislation that would make it illegal for heterosexual family members, allies and friends of LGBT people to be supportive. According to Nigerian law, a heterosexual ally, who administers, witnesses, abets or aids any form of gender non-conforming and homosexual activity could receive a 10-year jail sentence. The Republic of South Africa has the most liberal attitudes toward gays and lesbians, as the country has legalized same-sex marriage and its constitution guarantees gay and lesbian rights and protections. South Africa is the only country in Africa where any form of discrimination against the LGBT community is constitutionally forbidden. In 2006, South Africa became the first country in Africa and the 5th in the world to enact same-sex marriage. However, despite this protection, social discrimination against South African LGBT people does still occur, particularly in rural areas, where it is fueled by a number of religious figures and traditions. Discrimination is, however, far rarer in bigger cities, and there are large LGBT communities in cities like Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban, Pretoria, Port Elizabeth, East London, Bloemfontein, Nelspruit, Pietermaritzburg, Kimberley and George. South Africa's 3 largest cities, Johannesburg, Durban and Cape Town, are considered fairly accepting of the LGBT community and are promoted as tourist destinations for LGBT people. Spanish, Portuguese, British and French territories legalized same-sex marriages. For their own safety, gay and lesbian travelers have been encouraged by some to use discretion whilst in Africa, including advice to avoid public displays of affection. South Africa is generally considered to be the most gay-friendly African country in respect of the legal status of LGBT rights. Although Cape Verde is also frequently regarded as being very socially accepting of LGBT rights, it remains unclear what exact view the ancient Egyptians fostered about homosexuality. Any document and literature that actually contains sexual-orientated stories never named the nature of the sexual deeds, but instead uses stilted and flowery paraphrases. Ancient Egyptian documents never clearly say that same-sex relationships were seen as reprehensible or despicable. No ancient Egyptian document mentions that homosexual acts were set under penalty. Thus, a straight evaluation remains problematic. The best known case of possible homosexuality in ancient Egypt is that of the two high officials, Nyank Kanam and Kanam Hotep. Both men lived and served under Pharaoh Niasse during the 5th dynasty. Nyank Kanam and Kanam Hotep each had families of their own with children and wives. But when they died, their families apparently decided to bury them together in one and the same mastaba tomb. In this mastaba, several paintings depict both men embracing each other and touching their faces nose on nose. These depictions leave plenty of room for speculation. Because in ancient Egypt the nose-on-nose touching normally represented a kiss. Egyptologists and historians disagree about how to interpret